Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, man held with counterfeit cigarettes and ganja in Portmore remanded. A man who was held with a quantity of counterfeit cigarettes, white overproof rum, and ganja during a police operation in Portmore is to reappear in the St. Catherine Parish Court on July 29. Oral Johnson is answering charges of possession and dealing in ganja, breaching the Excise Custom Act and breaching the Trademark Act. When the matter was mentioned before Senior Parish Court Judge Desiree Allain, his bail was extended. The allegations are that on September 12, 2023, police personnel swooped down on a premises in Southborough, Portmore, St. Catherine, during which 9 gallons of a liquid substance marked J. Ray and nephew counterfeit cigarettes valued at $189,000 plus 1 pound of ganja were seized. Johnson was taken into custody, and following a question and answer session, he was charged. Court of Appeal rules against the retrial for men convicted of murder 13 years ago. The Court of Appeal is freeing 2 of 3 men who were convicted of murder 13 years ago, said yesterday that it would not order a retrial because they would be severely prejudiced, as approximately 20 years would have passed since the crime was committed. Freed were Omar Dunkley and Jason Coley, who were convicted by a jury in April 2011 of the murder of Michael Curtis, otherwise called Java, in Augusta Town, St. Andrew, on July 20, 2004, and were each sentenced to 25 years imprisonment. The court highlighted the fact that to date, the men had served about 13 years of their sentence, and the possibility of a retrial in the near future was hardly likely. Attorney-at-law Robert Fletcher, who represented Dunkley, and Attorney-at-law Anthony Williams, who represented Coley, had argued that the men should have been freed on a no-case submission because of contradictions and material inconsistencies in the evidence of the main witness for the prosecution. The third man, Omar Blake, who was represented by King's Counsel Valerie Nita Robertson, lost his appeal against his conviction, but the court reduced his sentence of 25 years before parole to 16 years. The prosecution's case was that the deceased was fatally shot at his girlfriend's house on Reserve Road in Augusta Town. A witness had testified that on the evening of the murder, the 3 applicants were among a group of men in Augusta Town. He said he heard Blake saying, "A long time he did not make a dopey." The witness said when the deceased arrived home, Blake went across to where he was and began questioning him. Later in the evening, the 3 applicants jumped the fence and went into the yard where the deceased was, and the witness said he heard gunshots coming from the yard. The applicants in their defense had denied being at the scene and indicated that the witness was lying. Several grounds of appeal were filed, and the attorneys-at-law argued that the judge erred in failing to accept the no-case submission, which was made at the end of the prosecution's case. In dismissing Blake's appeal, the court, comprising Justice Frank Williams, Justice Marcia Dunbar Green, and Justice Georgiana Fraser, ruled that due consideration was given to the grounds of his appeal advanced by King's Counsel, which were detailed and well articulated, but the court was unable to find any basis upon which leave to appeal the conviction could be granted. The court allowed the appeal against the sentence. The men had filed several grounds of appeal, contending that the trial judge erred in her directions to the jury. Fletcher, in his submissions, had argued that the contradictions were stark weaknesses in the prosecution's case, yet nowhere in the directions on identification did the judge highlight them as actual or potential weaknesses to the jury. The court, in accepting Fletcher's submissions, said the error deprived Dunkley of a real chance of an acquittal. Williams, in his submissions, drew the court's attention to contradictions in the evidence which he said were glaring, and went to the root of identification and the credibility of the witness. He submitted that the trial judge failed to assist the jury in analyzing the effects of the contradictions. The court, in its response, said that the sole eyewitness for the prosecution gave conflicting evidence in critical aspects of the case against the Coley, and those contradictions necessitated proper directions from the judge. The court has said the judge erred in failing to guide and assist the jury in critically analyzing that evidence, the result of which was a failure to place before the jury issues of fact which were particularly relevant to Coley. Given these material omissions, the verdict against Mr. Coley was unsafe and could not stand, the court ruled. 30-year-old charged with the murder of Portmore man at his home remanded. 30-year-old Gideon Gordon, who is charged for the stabbing death of a man at his home in Portmore, was remanded when he appeared in the St. Catherine Parish Court today. The court was informed that the post-mortem and the forensic certificates are still outstanding. The case was postponed to July 31. Allegations are that about 10:30 p.m. on June 17, Gordon, along with 2 accomplices, went to the victim's home in Edgewater in Portmore, St. Catherine, where a verbal dispute developed. Gordon allegedly used a knife to stab the man in his upper body. He died from injuries he received in the incident. Gordon fled the scene and was later arrested on June 19 when he surrendered to the police. Some 150 people still in shelters following passage of Hurricane Beryl. Some 150 people remain in shelters almost a week after Hurricane Beryl passed over the island. This update was given by Minister of Local Government Desmond McKenzie while speaking with the news. Minister McKenzie says that the occupied shelters are predominantly located across the southern section of the island, which was the most affected by the weather system. He says that the ministry is working to meet the relief demands of those in need.
Those shelters, as soon as we do an assessment to see what the conditions of those persons are, then we will make a determination. But we still have shelters that are active, and those shelters will remain open as long as there's a need for persons to occupy those shelters. So a lot of those who are there, homes have been damaged or partially or fully destroyed. The team, the Poor Relief Department and the disaster coordinators are now presently doing an assessment of the various individuals who are there working with the Ministry of Labour. Once that assessment has been done, then we will have to make a determination as to how we proceed. Those assessments have started. The team has been out, and we are expecting by now on the weekend to get a proper assessment as to what we need to do going forward.
Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.